Good evening. It's good to continue our study that we started last night. I think last night was quite challenging, was it? I hope you still slept well, even though we have to come to the core of the issues to see what's wrong in our life. What makes us sick? What makes us stressed? What makes us anxious? And there is only one thing that does it. And that is that we have in our heart an evil eye that just fools us with the good things. So we remember how the subconscious or the heart is built. We have in our mind a consciousness. There we have our will. And in our will, we first need to be aware of our need. If I'm hungry, if I'm freezing, if I'm thirsty or sweating, if I need harmony, if I need justice, liberty, truth, wisdom or security, all these needs must first be conscious before you can satisfy them subconsciously. Like I said yesterday, the will is like a screen. Does the screen take decisions? No. But on the screen, how much can you work on a computer without a screen? There is no possibility to work. That's why the will is just a screen of our life. Yes, and He brings us all the things there, and we see it, and through Him also the thing is done. But the decision is not taken in our will. The decision is taken in our heart or subconscious. And that is important to understand, how we take the decisions. And we know the heart is the place where the body and the spirit meet. That is there where there is done the electricity. And you know, electricity can only be done by putting an electron into action, and that goes between the two poles. Yes? And so you can have electricity only up here, you cannot have it down here. So it's between the 0 and the 1. And so the spirit is above there, and he has to do this electricity to the body by his decisions. And he has only two criteria to take a decision. It is for the minus, is it loss? And for the plus, it is gain. And we were so made that we always go for the gain, and we always must avoid loss. So what do you think is stronger in man? The yes or the no? Yeah. You must always think when I put questions. That's always the opposite that you would like to say. I hope you learn it till the next or the last message. So the no is always stronger. You see, if I want to bribe you and say, I give you some money, please do this job for me, you might say, I cannot do this because it's not right. But then I come up to you and say, you have a child, and if you want your child to still be in good health, then do the job for me. What would make the person do my will? Because he wants to avoid the loss, but he thinks I can do it to him. So in the end, what will he do? He will cooperate because he thinks I can do him loss. So the strong is always the loss. You see, if you cannot convince someone to do it from a positive side, you can force him or manipulate him, by threatening him. Because the no is stronger than the yes. Because you must avoid loss. And if you cannot do it, you still must do it. And that's why people can always be manipulated or be done to do something they don't want to do by threatening them to do something they don't want, but they're afraid to do it. That's why we can make people fear. Yes? Because we think others can do us loss. And now, we have seen yesterday that this mechanism is a construction that God made so, and no one can change it. We can never say yes to loss. It's no possibility. We always must say no. That's why we have only a problem when we lose something. You remember? Disease comes never from gain. The more you gain, the healthier you are. Yes, when people are successful in their business, when they're successful in their relationships, no disease, no problem. But when people have problems in their relationship, when they have losses in their life, then their health goes down and down and down. You would never get a depression without loss. Would you know that? You can never get diabetes without the thought of loss. You cannot even get a disc failure in your back without the thought of loss. Everything that goes into our life, that destroys life, is because we cannot lose. And we want to avoid something that we think we cannot avoid. All decisions man does only hear. Have you ever seen advertisement? Does the advertisement speak to your mind or to your heart? The sales, is they speaking to the mind or to the heart? It's to the heart. Because in the heart you have only two things. Did you ever get a advertisement that says, come into my shop, my stuff is the worst, but it's the most expensive, come and buy it? Will you ever have success? Yes or no? No. You must say, my stuff is the best, and it's still the cheapest, so come and buy it. You can never make an advertisement without promising gain. You cannot. Every advertisement must have a attraction that you gain something, or it must avoid loss. You know why the sales are bound to a certain day or to a certain time period? You know why they do that? Why is there not all year sale? They must, and they know exactly, you must buy today because tomorrow it's loss. That's why they have a time period of sale. So when you know once this thing here, you know everything about how things worked. Because you can tempt persons only in two ways. You either promise them gain or you promise them avoiding loss. There's nothing else. There's only two things. And look to it. Look to the whole politics when they do their advertisement. They always promise you something that is in the gain thing and promise you that you should avoid loss. Why would you make a wall between the countries? To gain or to lose? To avoid loss?
Avoid loss.
To avoid loss. Yes, always what we do is we do want to avoid loss. And avoiding loss is stronger than going for the gain. Because at the zero, we can still live very fine. But in the loss, we can never go. So all our decisions, our mind is always in this tension to gain, but at the same time avoid loss. Now, I know that in Germany we are very favored. We can drive the car as fast as it goes without getting a ticket when it is on certain freeways. Yes? Usually in Germany we have no speed limits. Yes, of course they put speed limit in some areas, but there are some areas where you can just drive as fast as your car goes. Isn't that fun? That's fantastic. You know, God is a speed God. He likes speed. And so, because he invented speed. Yeah? Do you like speed? I like speed, of course. Without speed, nothing works. So, being speedy is fine. But the faster you drive, how does your attention get?
More focused.
More focused. Because why? Because you have to avoid loss. Because the faster you drive, a little movement, and things are done. So when you drive slowly, you do not pay so much attention. So when I'm tired, I drive fast. Because then I have to pay attention, because I cannot lose. Yes? Then you just stick on that. And so you pay attention. When you drive, when you're tired and you drive 100, or that's here 55, then you fall asleep. Because there is nothing there that can suddenly happen. So it's so important when a surgeon does surgery. Why does he avoid not cutting your, when I did surgery, I was addicted to surgery, because everyone that does surgery is addicted to it, because it makes so much fun. And the harder the surgery is, the more fun it makes. Yes? Because when you have to go into the sinuses, the end of the sinuses is the brain. Yes, that last bone before the brain, you have to not cut through. But you don't know if behind it is not still a place to take something out before you get to the brain. So then you watch that and you do it with the microscope or with the endoscope. But the closer you come, the more attention you pay. Because you know what it happens if you go that one step behind? That's not so good. And why does the surgeon go behind it? Why is he trying to avoid loss? Because he is so interested in the life of the patient, or is he interested in his own life? Did you understand the question? So why does the surgeon pay attention? To save your life, or does he doesn't want to have a loss? You see, when I didn't go early to bed when I was a younger person. But when I had the surgery next day, that I knew it was taking me some power, then I was going earlier to bed, because I said I don't want to make a mistake tomorrow. But it isn't the care for the patient, it's the care for yourself. So you could say selfishness is a good thing, is it? At least it makes the surgeon not cut out your brain. No? Because if he could lose, he could say, let's take it out, doesn't matter. But he cannot, because he must stop at the place where it brings loss. And he, of course, is driven to not make himself loss. Because if he would think it would not make him loss, he might say, who cares? So let us understand that mechanism. We always are at this line to go for the yes, and by absolute all things, we must avoid loss. Now, all problems arise because we cannot avoid loss. We lose our no. If you never lose your no, you're always fine. That's why we need to know why people think they can lose when someone comes and threatens you. Because we have, before we put the information in gain and loss to take a decision for yes and no, we have a measurement. And you still remember that measurement. It is the eye. As Jesus says about the eye of the heart. And there is a single eye, that is the true eye, and the evil eye. And you can call it the flesh or the truth, the lie, the error, or the truth. It's the same thing. So the evil eye says, you always gain when you receive. The good eye says, you only gain when you give. When you have as gain the receiving, then when you do not receive, when you receive too little, or something is taken away from you, you are in a loss. Can you avoid it? When you cannot avoid it, you lose your no. But you still have to avoid loss. That's why people can never forget loss. You know that? You forget all the good others have done you, because that's normal. But if in 20 years they did you once something wrong, you won't forget that again. Because you cannot. Because it's a loss. And loss cannot be forgotten. It must be remembered. You wouldn't remember your dead people if you would have not put them into loss. And if you would remember them, it would be all fine. But when our mind comes back and says, I have to think on that person, I have to do that, then you know you put it in the loss section. And you have to put it out of the loss section, because everything that is there in the personal loss section will destroy your body finally. Yeah? So we must know that. So the good eye says, when you stop giving and you want to keep, then you get lost. So we see the difference. In the right eye, you always have the yes and the no, and no one can steal it. No one can threaten you. No one can come and say, I kill your child if you don't do that. And then you would say, please, you're free to do it if God allows it to you. Because it's not my child. You like it? It's fantastic. You're free. No one can threaten you with anything if you're free. Because you can say, my child is not my child, it's God's child, and you have first to pass him before you can touch it. Or not. Do you think God is around his children? Yes or no? Yes. No? Of course he is. Nothing can touch you. There cannot not come a person in here there now and shoot me without God's permission. And if he shoots me with God's permission, that's fine. How much do you lose? Nothing. When I go into the airplane and I have to fly, and I say, Lord, if this plane is crashing and I die, you lose. I'm not losing anything. Isn't that nice? Because I work for him. So who got the loss if I die? Only him get the loss. So isn't that a nice way to think? It's a fantastic way to think. Because you that never lose, you know. You know that you can do gain and loss only to God, and it's only by your own yes and no that you can do it. But here, you get, someone comes into your house and steals your things that you have there. And what happens then with you? Do you say, thank God I got rid of it? Isn't that our attitude? Are we? No, we are not sleeping anymore. I had patients that 4 nights they couldn't sleep because a thief broke in their house and they got some old jewelry there, and it was not about the jewelry, but it was about how someone comes into your house. But you can let it happen because it's not your stuff. You protect it as much as you can, but you cannot do more than do your best. And so the rest you leave to God. Because it's His business, it's His house, it's His jewelry, it's His possession. Because you don't owe nothing. Isn't that nice? I love it. So, no one can steal you nothing if nothing is yours. You have a responsibility how you deal with things. You know, I keep the stuff with me, but if someone comes and steals me the iPad, I say, Lord, you will bring me another one. If not, I cannot do the job for you. So He takes care that I get another one. Because He knows how to deal with things. And I don't need to borrow, I don't need to worry that something could be stolen to me. So, personal loss is that what kills the people. Because they think they are someone. That's why from our identity arises our motivation. And we are selfish and pride, we know that. And we all think we have possession, we think we can create, and that's why we give in order to receive. And the question is now, who am I? What's my identity? Because that's the I. And we said yesterday that we cannot create anything because we cannot create anything. We can have no property or no possession. But we think we create something, and we understood yesterday that we think that love is our creation. That's why the human think love is what they do themselves. That is, they create love. They don't see that love is only that what they use. They think love arises from them. So, did you think about it? What does man think that he is? There are only 2 identities that a man can have. And if you think you are the creator of love, who must you be? God. You must be God. I am a creator. That means people think they are God. And in the moment I tell this my patients, how do they react? They say, Doctor, I never thought that I'm a God. I said, no, consciously not. But if you would not think it, you would not be in my office. There's only one root for all problems, and that is that you think you are someone that you're not. And of course, you see that I don't speak of things that I have not proven. Because when I was searching to find out what is wrong with man, what brings man into difficulties, I found, by God's grace, only one root. Because I said, Lord, you have to help me. I have to find the root of all problems. And the root of all problems is that you believe about you a lie, thinking you are someone that you're not. All problems of humans arise from overestimation, never from underestimation. Even that what seems like underestimation is overestimation. All problems come because you think you're higher than you are. That's pride. You're more than you really are. That's why people are not conscious about their identity, but you can make the identity conscious by the way they behave. Can you see on the behavior who a person thinks he is? Obviously, because that discovers to you who you are. So let's take a few proofs that every one of us are born gods. That's what we think about us. Yes? The proofs that I'm thinking I'm God. We take behavior. What do you think is the worst behavior in man, but in which he delighteth most? Behavior. Let's talk about behavior. Or another question. What would you eradicate from the earth if you could? Pardon? Language. Okay, that's a good idea. But That's that's not the word thing. That's not the word thing. We can have a translator program. And violence comes close. What is it? Greed. Yes, yes. More close. Murder. It's power over others. Ruling over others is the worst thing, and all delight in it. Yes? Why do the gainers are jumping high when they... What is it? Power over others. You know the experiment that was done in New York in the 60s or 70s, where they took a few students to be the prisoner and a few students to be the jailers, the one? You know what happened? They gave the jailers total liberty to do with the prisoners what they wanted. And in 5 days, these normal people became besties. Is that the right English word?
Beasts?
Beasts, yes. Beasts. They had to stop the thing because they almost killed the prisoners. Whenever you give a person power, he is going to change. The more power, the more worth you get. The more power, the more worth you get. Why do people want to have money?
Power.
And why, if you have all the money of the world, you need to become president? No, I mean, it's not about this president, it's about all presidents. Because everyone says, now I need to be someone who knows. I was also thinking on this muscle man, Schwarzenegger, yes, Arnold, yes, he comes from Austria, and he couldn't get the president because he said he's not born in the US, because you must be born in the US to file for presidency, but he wanted to be also president. So he filed for governance, or at least he was a governor. But why do you do that? Because you have all the money, you have all the muscles. You need to have power. That's the worst thing that we have on earth. At what age humans exercise power over others? It's in the mother's womb already. We cannot see it then so much, but it is there as well. So what is the child born? Is it born a king or a servant? Unfortunately, a king. And the things all around them must serve them. That's why they are so small, they cannot think consciously, but they have mother full under control. That's how it is. I always like to see that when in my practice, mothers come with the children. I always see who is the stronger one, who is the beggar, who is the chief, who is in control, and who is the one who is not in control. And almost always the children have full control over their mother. Because they don't know what power is, but they still exercise it because it comes from their unconsciousness, in which they want that others should do exactly their will. And do the children show it that they know what they want? Do they show it? Absolutely. So, power over others is a proof that you think you're God. If you would think you're a creature and you're a servant, why would you ever try to exercise power over others? It is not possible. It's impossible. So, the constant fighting of the genders and today we have a good examples everywhere, is clear that everyone wants the power. You see, in marriage, why do you marry? To get power over the other, yes? You don't see it, but it still comes out then when you have a discussion. Yes? Are you then humble? Or you see, and that's a battle. Once is the one up, then the other, and then the other. You know, it has to keep always the, yesterday you won, today I win. And so it's back and forth. Why do we fight? Why do children fight amongst them? It's only because they are in their heart deceived, thinking that others need to serve them. Control over others. Have you ever been tempted to control the phone of your husband or your wife? Yes or no? You see, I know cases in my practice. The more cases you have, you see how people try to control. There are ones that put the camera in the car of their wife so that they control where she drives. Today the technique is possible, so they just know exactly where they are. And one gentleman knew that his wife was tempted with other boyfriends to go away, and so he was just filming what she did in the car. So he was so upset, he drove to that place where he knew the car was in the GPS. But before he got there, the police got there, so they had to run away. So, however, control is something evil, is it? Do you need to control anyone? Tell me, does it matter what the other does for you? Does it matter what he does or not? It's hard to say. Does it matter what the other thinks about you? Does it matter or not? You all think yes. But there is never a matter what my wife thinks about me. It's her problem. Yeah, that's not my business. She can think whatever she wants. Is she free? You see, sometimes they come up, because women are a little bit curious, they say, and they ask their man, what did you dream last night? I have a case, it's an authentic case, I just tell you authentic cases. And the men, they're not always very smart, they tell what they dream. You shouldn't tell what you dream to your wife. You should say it's nothing about your business what I dreamed. Because since then, he told her what he dreamed, the marriage was over. There was a problem. So every morning, what did you dream? Does it matter? Doesn't matter what others do. But we all think it. Do we think it matters or not?
Yeah.
Yes, because we have in our heart to think I'm God. They have to give an account to me. No one needs to give to me an account. So, we are all judges over others. Do we? Have you ever judged another person? You know why you judge? Who is the measurement for all things? Who is the measurement for all things? Yourself, because you think you are God. If you would not be God, then you would not think that you know it better. You see, I always know it better than my wife. It's good she's not here, so I can talk free. No. But just you know, I said to her, if you always would do what I say, you would be the happiest woman. And me also a little bit. Because that's how we think. I am the measurement. That's why we judge people. We say they should do it like that, not like this. That's wrong. They might be clear, they might be right that what the other does is wrong, but Judgment means I condemn them because they don't do it right. You would never judge a person if you would not be God. You only judge because you think you have a right to judge. Isn't that a terrible thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
I hate it. Then, all humans ask for worship. Did you know that? Because you want to be praised, appreciated, respected, applauded. And what if you don't get it? You see, I have patients in my practice. They are very sick because their mother never thanked them. Never said the one, my mother said thank you to me. And she was over 60, this patient. And she had many issues in her life and many diseases. Because she was suffering, she said, my mother never said thank you. And I was thinking in my mind, she needed not to do it. Who are you to expect that someone should thank you? Understand the question?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you that someone should appreciate you? And you ask appreciation. Isn't that worship? Who owns everything? Doesn't God owe anything? Who shall we praise? Who shall we thank for everything?
God.
That's only God's thing. That's not a human thing to get praise. Yes, God can appreciate us and He says, well done, but a human can never appreciate you and you don't need it. But we are under great, great problems because we ask that. And then the greatest proof, I always leave to the end, the greatest proof that we must be God is because we give before we take. So let's see the difference between God and a human. God has how many needs? No needs. He only has one action, that is giving. That's why love is giving. God gives. God is love. Every human being and every created being must be a channel. It must take before it gives. That's the law of life that we share. No one has its own power except God. So everyone must take in order to give. Now, if you give before you take, you must be God. You see, our motivation, the way we act, and you always will see people speaking, it's a give and take. Yes? Do you ever say it's a take and give? You never say it's a take and give. You always say it's a give and take. Yes? Because you give in order to receive. And when you give first, then you must be God, because then you give it from yourself. So, you see, our behavior just proves. Do you find yourself in this list?
Mm-hmm.
I hope so. Then you know that something in your heart is wrong. And the interesting thing is, and this is funny when you once know what's the problem of humanity, his problem is overestimation. His problem is that he thinks he is someone that he's not. All problems come out of this situation. Everyone wants to be more than he is. And we have groups of people, we have ideologies on this earth. And the interesting thing is that if you go to any ideology and prove its root, you will find the same one. It doesn't matter what the ideology is. So let's take religion. All religions, except the biblical one, says that we are God. The doctrines say that we are a part of God, and all religions prove to their behavior that they want to rule over others. Yes or no? because religion is a power to rule over the people. But it's interesting, when you ask a Buddhist what he is, he says, I'm a half God. And then you find the other one who says he's a quarter God. Or whatever you are, they all have in their understanding the idea that they are gods. And they even teach it. That's why they have the idea that they are everlasting. That's why they have the idea they're incarnation and they never die. So there's all coming from the idea, I am a God. And now you know why Plato came up with this idea that the human is a God that has caught himself in an animal body. That's why a human. So when he gets out of that animal body, he is the God again. That's the whole idea that is behind it. Now there are atheists, agnostics, humanists, communists. What do they believe? What is the core of their teaching, of their ideology? You know what it is? It's the same. They all think they're spiritually independent. That's why they think they are gods. If you are not spiritually independent, you must be God. And then there is a third category of people that are the scientists. I love them. They are the most fantastic people because they really believe that something higher can evolve from something lower. While that is never possible, a higher being can do a lower thing, but to something to evolve from a lower to a higher is never ever experienced and can never be. So if we evolved from a lower being, who is the highest being?
God.
No. If we evolved from a lower being, who is the highest being? I am the highest being. The theory of evolution just proves that it's a man-invented thing because it proves that you think you are the highest being, totally independent on any higher being that you are. Your doctor won't send you to a higher being to say, you need love from a higher being. So the spiritually independency is proven in every ideology. You will always find the idea that at the bottom, every one of them think they are gods. So let's see how that looks on a tree. On a tree you have the atheists branch, the agnostic branch, the communist branch, the scientist branch, the religious people, but they all have the same root. They all believe the same who they are. They are they are God. Isn't that interesting? There must be another tree planted where there is another root. So, you see, it doesn't matter if the agnostics fights the communists or the atheists fights the whatever, they still believe the same. Outwardly, they might fight. But at the root, there is no difference. No difference. So, it's nice to categorize all ideologies in two categories. The one that shows that they believe they are gods, and the other, they have the full understanding that they are creatures. Those are the two things that are in the world. There is not more there. So let us look once again where all the problems of humanity arise. Where does stress, disease, and all these things come from? If people think in the error that they are God, what is the conclusion of that? They believe my spiritual needs are satisfied by what others are doing. If others think well about me, then I feel good, isn't it? That's, others need to fulfill my needs. Others has done me this. Others have done me that. And it's even more interesting when you take the place of others and say, I don't do it for me, but I do it for my children. While they still do it for themselves because their children, they think they are theirs. That's why they fight for their children. because you always fight for your own possession. You think it's selfish, it's unselfish, but in the end, it's pure selfish because you think that's your possession and you will keep that what you think is yours. So my spiritual needs are satisfied by what others are doing. They must be alive to do it. You see, why do we mourn the dead? Because we believe they owe us something. So we would like to keep them alive because we're dependent on them. We think they owe us, they must stay here with us, because if they don't stay here with us, oh, poor people, what are we doing without them? That's total dependency on other people for your life. That's why you think they must be alive. That's why we have the whole occult thing. That's why we have the idea that the dead must be alive. That's why people go and ask whoever they ask. I just had, at the beginning of last year, a young man, he was 39 years old, and his mother died a few months ago. And he said, if I would have a diamond, 4-carat diamond, you know, very expensive carat diamond, he said, I would give it for 1 minute to talk with my mom. You're 39 years old. Do you need still your mom? Yes or no? Isn't that funny? Yeah. You know when people are thinking most about their mom? The older they get. I had a patient that has led many people in the last minute to die. And he said, almost all people tell me, I go to my mother before they die. So mother plays a great role, does it? Mm-hmm. They think they need their dead people. They think their love, and mother love is the sweetest love. Yes, there is no higher expectation than you have on mothers. Because mother and love is the same thing. Isn't it? Mm-hmm. So that's why we all carve for love, and so we think mothers must be present in our life. Even when we are out of children's age. I once had a patient, and he was very scary because I wanted to look into his ears, and when I wanted to put the I don't know how that calls, not the otoscope, yes, in the ear to look into his ears, he said, he was taking his head away, and I said, why are you so afraid? And he said, because my mom and my dad didn't love me. Oh, he's 40 years old. And he's afraid because mom and dad didn't love him. Who taught him that? You know that it's taught everywhere? Because others haven't done what you need to, because you didn't experience the love of the parents in your childhood. Now, you poor person will have always anxiety and fear because you poor guy. You never received love. Isn't that the normal saying? Yes or no? Yeah. Yes, it is. But it is total against the law. It's total nonsense. We will see it. Because no one can eat for us, no one can drink for us, there is no possibility to be dependent on satisfying our needs, neither on spiritual nor on physical level, when we are outside of mother's womb. So, I need to be loved, respected, honored, praised. You need that? Last night you said it, or the night before you said you need to be loved. I hope you got that out of your dictionary, out of your vocabulary, that you said, I never need to be loved anymore. Do you fight with that thought? You should. Never need to be loved, praised, respected, or honored, because if you don't get it, you are in great trouble, in loss. But now we come to the others are not allowed to do me wrong. They are not allowed to lie, betray, beat, steal. Are they allowed to do it or not? Yes. if God allows it. Didn't we read in... but Christianity, you know, stops when it comes to real life. Yes, Jesus says here, you know, in Matthew 5, but I say unto you, that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if any man will sue thee at the law, and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. And whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him 2. Do you see in these 3 Bible verses how many aspects of human life are included? How many aspects? How many?
3.
It's the physical, yes? The physical abuse. Then it's the material, on what we are bound. And then it's the spiritual. It's someone forces you to bring him his stuff for a mile. That was the habit. And Jesus says, don't worry, do it 2 miles, because you do it for me, you're free. Have you ever liked to be forced to do something?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
Oh, no, I hated it. I always hated it. But I got, in Romania, when you get into the military service, you know what the first thing they do with you? You just arrive at the unit, you know what the first thing is that they do? They cut your hair down. It's total humiliation if you cut the hair down. That's what they do, everyone. You know, no one can keep his hair on his head. Now, maybe they say it is because of hygienic things, because some people have other living beings there in their hair, but yeah. However, it was not something that I liked. Yes? Or if they say, okay, now, soldier, bring me that thing and throw it there. And then from there, you have to bring it there back, and they just play game with you. Do you like it?
No.
And Jesus says, don't worry about it. Do it. But not with a grudge, but with happiness. You see, when Paul was speaking to the slaves, and Peter as well, did he say, protest to your slave master? What did he say? Do the job like you do it unto God, to the good one and to the bad one, because you do not serve the slave master. You're free. Isn't that a nice thing? We must be free in our head. And Jesus says that in the Sermon on the Mount. But you see, you know how many people deny these words here? They say, Jesus didn't mean it like that. And yeah? But this is exactly what makes us sick. If you resist the one that does you evil, you certainly will become sick. Because it says here, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. I never met a Christian that liked to be used. There was once a lady, she was in her 40s, and she said to me, I will divorce my husband because he just uses me. I said, okay. The thought that someone uses you is a good thought or a...
No.
How do you feel?
Bad.
Terribly, terribly. And so she said to me how the husband uses her, and so she wants to get rid of him. I said, okay, so would you like to stay alone then? Oh no, I have to find another husband. I said, why do you need him? And she said, well, I also need someone to hug me and to take me in his arms. I said, oh, you need someone to use him. They don't understand. that we do exactly that, what we don't like from others. We just go to use others. And Jesus says, pray for them which despitefully use you. Is that something you can do? As long as you think they do it unto you, no chance. That ye may be children of your Father which is in heaven. And Christians are the children of the Father in heaven, are they? So they should be living like this. Should they? It's all in a simple verse. That's wisdom. Love your enemies. If Christians would love their enemies, they wouldn't be sick. But Christians are unable to love their enemies as well as non-Christians are able to love their enemies. They cannot bear long with those who do them wrong. Do good to them that hate you. Is that something you would like? Just think on it. Would that something that you would just say, this is it, what I want to do? So, let's go back. We have to finish tonight. Others are not allowed to do me wrong. The truth is, others are allowed to do you any wrong. Because they don't do it. They don't do it to you. They do it to your Lord. Because you are the possession of God. I judge and condemn them when they are doing the wrong. I have to control time, circumstances, money, goods, and the life of those around me. The more power I have over others, the better I think my needs are fulfilled. So, the result of this is stress. The result of this is anxiety. You know that you would never fear if you would not think you're God. You would never have a panic attack if you would not think you're God. Can you imagine that? Because as a God, you would like to control what is under the control of God. I tell you one of my panic attacks, it was 2015. I was wanting to fly from Atlanta back to Frankfurt, and I embarked the plane, and while I'm going to my seat, suddenly I get this feeling of fear. And the one who knows panic attacks from his experience, he knows how that starts. And I started to feel bad. And I said, it's impossible. I feel good in the airplane. I have no fear when I fly. How does it come? But I know that this feeling doesn't come without a thought, even though the thought is not conscious. But you can never have a panic attack without a thought, because only a thought can do it. So I'm there, and I try to help myself, but the fear comes, the feeling gets stronger and stronger, and I say, this is impossible. What did I think? And so I go and check myself, what did I think? And so I went back in my mind, what was it that happened before, a minute before, or yes. And so I went out in my mind of the airplane, and I remembered that when I entered the airplane, the pilot came out. He was a tall guy, he had no hair. And guess what was my first thought when I saw his face? I saw his face and I said, does he look suicidal? Now you know, 2015, the Germanwings air was crashed, and it was said that the pilot committed suicide and got with him the whole plane. Now every time you embark a plane, you know there might be a suicidal pilot, because they don't check them always. And so that thought preoccupied me, but what did bring my spirit into that panic? What did I want to control and could not? The pilot. I was thinking my life is dependent on the pilot. Is your life ever dependent on the pilot or not?
Only God.
So you can sit in any plane and say, Lord, it's your problem. If I have to fly, I cannot control the pilot, but I know my life is not dependent on the pilot. And when I realized my deception, that I tried to control the pilot that I cannot control because I was thinking that my life is dependent on the life of the pilot, you see how terrible, deceptive this kind of thinking is. You think you're God, at the same time you make yourself a slave of a pilot which you cannot control. So error is never explainable because it has no structure. You can only see the error when you see the truth. So in the moment I realized that I put my trust in a human, what happened with my panic?
Went away.
It was just like you switch on or off a thing and you're free. That's how truth worked. Truth can make you free in split of second. In a moment, you see it and take it. You're free.
Amen.
That's how fear can be overcome, because it comes out of a try to control something which you cannot control, while you believe that your life is dependent on that what you want to control. But your life is not your life. You can only live it. You cannot control it. It's God's life.
Amen.
So conflict and war. Why do we fight with each other? Why do children fight with each other? Why can they not just play around nicely? Why?
Struggling.
Because they want to rule. They want to dominate. They exercise power. And if the other one does not respect their power, then they have to fight. That's very simple, isn't it? So conflicts and wars, all kind of diseases, depression, cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, inflammation of all kind, are just the result of one root, thinking you are someone that you are not. So if we would kill that idea, we would kill everything that is evil on earth. It's only one thing. Who do you think you are? So, I want to open up the next lecture. We now start the lecture from tonight. You like it? Don't worry, I won't go too far. But I want to explain the whole inner structure, and we will see it now from another viewpoint, just to have a whole overview of the human structure with the subconscious. So, we have here down our cortex, yes? We know that the spirit is above the cortex, and since the whole human is in the cortexes, we don't need to know the rest of the body, because they're all conducted from here. Yes, everything that enters the cortex must go in chain reaction like it is to that place where it has to go. There is nothing else there where you can change anything. So the spirit is there with its conscious and subconscious. The will, we know, is in the conscious, and we know that the spirit is dependent on information. He doesn't live with food, he lives with spiritual information. Yes? That's what the spirit lives off, because he's a spirit. He doesn't live by food. So there comes in the information first in the will, and then where does it go? The first thing, the information, after it comes through the will and goes in the subconscious, it goes into identity. So you must know, what is the question of identity? Who am I? Who am I? And that is, if that is the truth, then you have the good I, and all the rest is just a matter of a chain of reaction. So what comes next? Since the spirit cannot be forced to do anything, trust is the first thing with which every action starts. You can never do anything without trust. You know that? Trust is like breathing. And you have to breathe, and Without breathing, you die. Yeah? Is breathing a choice? Not really. You have to do it. Or drinking. So trust is that which starts every action. Can I drink without trust?
No.
No, I have to trust that this water is clean, and it won't hurt me, but it will bring me a gain. So I have to trust. Without trust, I could say, oh, maybe someone put a thing here and put some poison in. You know, you can have all kind of ideas. And that's how people come. Yes, you must trust in everything before you do the action. That's why without trust, you cannot do anything. Because the Spirit cannot be forced. You cannot be forced to drink. Yeah, you cannot be forced to do anything. You must first trust. So that's why trust is equal with dependency. And it says, in whom do I trust that I drink? Do I trust in that water, or do I trust someone else that I can drink that water? Is that a good question? Whom do I trust when I drink the water? The water, the bottle, the person who bottled it? Whom do I trust to drink it? I have to trust God that that water is okay. If I trust the company, that's a mistake. But I trust God that that water is okay, so I drink it. So always our spirit needs a source of orientation. He cannot orient himself after himself. There is no possibility for that. We will see why. If we are a creature, then you can never do anything out of yourself. You must, through trust, take the information from outside and do something with it. So, out of trust arises motivation. What is the question for motivation? How do you know what your motive is? No? We think motivation is reason. It's a little bit closer. For whom do I do it? For whom do I do it? You know that no one can do anything for himself. You cannot do things for yourself. The law doesn't permit you that. You always do things for someone else. It's either for the mammon or for God. Never one can do anything for himself. We will start to see that more. And then comes the action you take in order to give. That's the law of life. That's all in the heart. It's written there. You cannot do it differently. Gain must be achieved. And God said that gain is give. Loss must be avoided. So you don't keep what you take. You just give it on. And then you don't get into loss. Decisions are only you can decide. And then you have the yes and the no for both sides. That's the whole inner structure of the human being. And that's how it works. And from here, when it starts to your will, like we said yesterday, until it gets to yes or no, it's 4.5 milliseconds. So what counts then? Let's look to Adam. When Adam was created, what was his initial nature? He was dependent on God's word. Yes? So, what did he believe about himself? What did he know? I am a created being. That is the truth. That's the good I. So, in whom did he trust?
God.
He could only trust in God. The only source of orientation can be God for a human created by God. For whom does he want to gain, and for whom does he want to avoid loss?
God.
For God. The love of God is his motivation. He does all things for God's sake because God created him for the purpose that God gave him. His action is clear. He takes from God in order to give. Gain is the goal of all his decision. He knows it is giving. He must avoid loss. So all his decisions are right and loss can be avoided. Adam never needed to be afraid to take a wrong decision. Yes, because as long as he knew what he was never in a danger. You see, temptation, why could Adam fall into temptation to eat the fruit? Or why could Eve fall? Because it's the same thing. Why could they fall into temptation? Because they wanted to be more than a created being. You know, you cannot mistrust your Creator if you do not want to be higher than He made you. That's what the devil wanted. He wanted to be more than an angel. And so he comes to Eve and says, Eve, if you will eat this, it will make you a higher being. Only thus he could make Eve to mistrust God. You see, I make a simple analogy. Were we created for first class or for economy class? What do you think? We were created for first class. We were never created for economy class. Yes, that's not our need. If I would have a choice when I go into that airplane, where would I sit? Well, the first class I would sit. Yes, because that's my need. That's why they can sell a ticket for $5,000 when you can fly in economy for $500. That's first class. Because that's not only leather, that's space, that smells good, that looks good. Everything is just made for your desire. Were we made for nice? Were we made for luxury or for garbage?
Luxury.
For luxury. That's why we can sell nice houses expensively, because that is our need. Now, Adam, the devil comes to Eve and says, God has put you in the second class. Now you can advance in the first class you were made for. Would that not be a instigation of mistrust? If God has made you for the first class, would He ever be able to put you in second class? No, they were in first class. They were in the first of first classes exactly for what they were made. God has given all their needs were fulfilled, but now the devil comes and says, hey, you're sitting in the last class. Why not advance to the first class, what we were made for? And that's how he deceived Eve. And the same thing was Adam deceived. Some people think that Adam ate that fruit to die with Eve. Oh? So Adam was not deceived. Oh yes. Adam wanted to not lose Eve. We know now why. Because he had to avoid loss. So that is the hook. That's why he got into temptation. He didn't want to lose Eve. But now why did he eat the fruit? Because he did not want to lose Eve? Was that the cause? Of course not. The cause was that Eve said, Adam, do you look to me? I am now a higher being. You have no idea how I feel. She was high, you know? And she was just speaking like a waterfall or whatever, and having her bosom full of fruits, and said, Adam, you lose if you don't eat. God has just deceived us. He wanted us to not be in the place where we have to be. Please, see this, eat it. Adam ate because he believed Eve and mistrusted God. But how much possibility do you have? Would you believe a creature rather than a creator? You see, Adam knew that Eve was taken out of him by God. Now, could he not have said, okay, Eve, I understand, but let's go to check with God first. He would have taken her hand and said, Lord, just come, we need to discuss something. This my little girl did something, which I think is not right. Did Adam react like that?
No.
No. But he could he? But Eve was just so eagerly convincing him that God is not trustworthy. And so he trusted his rib. I mean, he trusted something that is a creation rather than a creator that's total inexplicable, isn't it? Because he was a perfect man. So when Adam sinned, what did change in him? There's only one thing that changed in Adam. It's time to finish. There's only one thing that changed. What did change in Adam? When Lucifer was his feet, when now he believed Lucifer, he took from Lucifer, what changed? It's only his identity changed. He became a god. And now everything changed according to that. Everything else is just a chain reaction. So that's the lie. He got the evil eye. Now faith was in whom? It was in himself. Humans were, Eve were now his orientation. What became motivation? For whom does he now do things? Pride and selfishness. He works for Satan. He gives in order to receive. That's the law of death. Gain is receiving. Loss is not receiving. All his decisions must be wrong. He cannot avoid loss. And so he gets sick in his body. So that's the whole. Okay, it got stuck. Now you see it. Shall we go back? Does it work?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I trust in myself. Humans are orientation, pride and selfishness. You work for Satan. You give in order to receive. That's the law of death. You want to receive because you think that's gain. If you don't receive, you think that's loss. All your decisions must be wrong. Loss is not avoidable. So you must destroy finally yourself when you lose it. So if you want to redeem man, what do you need to change in man to redeem him?
Yeah,
Pardon? It's only this here. He must come back to know who he really is. That's what needs to be changed. Is that an inner change or an outer change? It's an inner change. And we need to know this inner change. We need to understand how this needs to be done and need to be changed. All problems that humans have, let's do one more slide, is, and here I have the will at the entrance and I have the will at the end. So the information comes in. Identity is the decisive element. Then comes trust, motivation, action, gain, loss, decision, and it's all in this order. And then you do the will, what you do. Yes? So here is the will, what I want, and here is the will, what I do. Do you have a difference between them? Yes, you want to do something good, but you do the wrong. I always must say my patients, I say, what you want is right. What you do is wrong. That's always the same case. But why is that what you want good? Because in our will, we are made for the good things, but now that I believe I am a God, not a creation, so then I am not doing what I want, but I do what I don't want. If I would know who I am, I always would do what I want. The will, what I will, and what I do will be the same if I would be in truth. But since I'm in the lie, I don't do what I want, I do what others dictate. So restoration, when human is restored, he is restored to do again what he wants to do. Jesus never did anything that he did not want to do. He identified himself totally with his Father, so he always did what he wanted. And we will always do what we want. In the moment, we are just creatures. But as long as we think we're gods, we don't do what we want. We are under the command of circumstances and other people because we will try to control them while we have no control over it. So the decisive element for all things is who you think you are. The last one. The conflict in our life is between reason and unreason, between wisdom and madness, between mindfulness or consciousness and foolishness. What is the one? What is the other? The one is realistic thought and actions according to the laws of nature. That's the truth. You're wise when you only want to do what you're able to do. You know what madness is? When you want to do something you can not do. It's unrealistic thoughts and actions that contradicts the law of nature. And I'm so happy Solomon had only two categories of people. You know that? The wise and the foolish. Because there is nothing else. The wise does things that he can do. The foolish tries to do things that he can not do. That's why if you do the things of nature, you maintain your life and the vital space nature and health. And if you do against the laws, you destroy life and the vital space and you have disease. And the cause of it is I am a created being that's wise. And the evil is I am thinking I am someone that I'm not. So I will stop here because there is another chain of thoughts that we have to deal tomorrow to understand why do we have our problems, or where is the one place where all battle is done. And if there we finish, if there we solve the problem, then we have all problems solved. In a moment we are in our heart convinced that we are creatures. No fights with others. No trying to rule over others. No control over others. No getting angry over others. Wouldn't that be a nice life? Wouldn't that be a desirable life? Oh, I desire it so. The more I have to give this message, the more I am convinced that there is a terrible change in us. And if you don't see that change and see that we are thinking something about us that is not truth, no one can help us. So tomorrow we will go into why do children get sick. It's one of the most challenging lectures, because I will show why there is a dependency of the Spirit. That which we, when we are God, are not. Then we think we're independent. But the Spirit can never be independent. And the child spirit and the God spirit and the human spirit must be taken somewhere, its power. It must take from somewhere its information. And from where you take your information, that you become. So tomorrow night, it's a nice lecture. It's one of my favorite. But because I prove through the child, the law, how it works. Because in my practice, through the children, I saw it. Because children just tell you the truth. With the children, you can prove that their spirit is not independent. It's a total dependent spirit. But they think they're independent. So we always can see on the output what's the input. And that, since it's unconscious, since it's not visible, the input, we always can see the output in the body of the child. So that's a fantastic lecture. So everyone can come if he wants. I don't know, do we still have music at the end? Because I don't see my dear wife. Lydia? That's a good training, isn't it? I mean